Hello, wonderful Sparkle Seekers. Welcome to this beautiful, beautiful interview episode of the podcast. In this interview, I chat with Mitle Southey, and she is an intuitive guide, a circle holder, and host of the Spirited Sisters podcast. And in this interview, we talk all about sisterhood and how sisterhood can contribute to a sparkly life, and just in general what it means to have sisterly support in your life. It was a lot of fun talking to Mitle, and I really can't wait to share this episode with you. So without further ado, let's dive right in, and I really hope you enjoy.
Hey ho, Sparkle Seeker. If you want a life that makes you excited to get up in the morning and that puts sparkles in your eyes, then you've come to the right place. I cannot wait for you to listen in while I jam on leading a happy and joyful life on your own terms. Welcome to Sparkly You.
The Sparkly You podcast, I don't know if you've listened into a few episodes or not, but the podcast is mostly about, creating a life that, basically makes us sparkle from the inside out. And to me, I think that, some sort of, feeling some sort of connection with another person or even a few people plays a huge role in that sparkliness. And I notice that every time, that I meet with some friends and I actually gather a few women every other month or so, and that we all leave with sparkly eyes. And since you are, the queen of women's circle and just connecting women on a deep level, it's just going to be really exciting talking to you. And I was wondering if you would like to tell us a little bit about, how that came to life, that you now run women's circles and teach other women how to do that.
Yes, of course. So firstly, thank you. I'm absolutely delighted to be here, and it's my favorite thing to talk about. And I love the title, The Queen of Women's Circles. Totally taking that.
Yes, you should.
Thank you. My journey with women's circles was really unexpected. I was new to town. I was living in a small town in Western Australia called Denmark. And we had just arrived, we just moved there, I was pregnant, and the local women were creating and actually building a red tent for the community as part of a community project. And I was involved with that. It was a way for me to connect with other women. And as part of a local festival, they had several circles then held in that red tent. And I attended one of those, which was a birthing circle. So we came together and women shared their stories of birthing, either their own birth story or birthing a child or children. And it was a really profound experience for me. I was quite disconnected from my pregnancy at that point. And although I was happy, I had old birthing stories from my mother, who had always told me she was in labor for a million years with me, and how atrocious it had been. It was a 48-hour labor. So I had a lot of that going through. And then I spent this time in really my first experience of circle within a purposefully created space. And it was incredible. It was probably the first time I had sat with a group of women where I had felt safe, where I had felt seen and heard and witnessed and received no judgment, no advice, no sympathy. And it had this profound impact on me. And it was just, wow. It was this is how women can come together. This is how we can gather. We'd created a centerpiece with, sticks and stones and leaves and flowers. And it was this co-created experience and this deep reverence for the feminine, which I literally had an experience. I'm a former lawyer, litigation lawyer. And so it was a completely new experience. And it was several months later, I had given birth to a beautiful little boy, and my partner and I had opened a business together. It was an organic cafe and store. And life had just taken a corner that was not fun. We'd become business partners together. We were learning to parent together. and try and have some semblance of our intimate relationship together. And it just felt out of control. Everything felt yucky and hard. I was learning to be a mother. I was learning to be a businesswoman. I was learning to be in a relationship with my partner, who was now my business partner, and my, co-parenting. So it was a really interesting time. And I had this moment where I remembered this red tent circle, because everything had really fallen away. Diving into motherhood and then diving into our first bricks and mortar business, there was really no space for anything else. So even the women who I was spending time with while I was pregnant and just after River was born, I just didn't have the capacity to see them. With hindsight, that should have been a priority, but at the time, other things take over.
Yeah.
And I just remembered that circle, and I thought, that's what I need. It was like I couldn't make the space to catch up for coffee, but I knew I needed something close and intimate and deep. So I randomly, in the midst of all that chaos, decided to hold a women's circle. And we had the cafe, so my partner came down and he helped me. We just cleared everything out one Sunday afternoon. I laid beautiful floor coverings and rugs, lit a million candles, made little gift bags, made food. And I had 6 incredible women, local women, who came and joined me. And we sat on the floor. It was freezing. Note to self, get lots of blankets and cushions. And we just had this exploration of sharing. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd written a meditation, and I had a vague notion from this one experience I already had. And that was my first experience of really holding space and creating a safe and sacred space for other women. And, as they say, the rest is history. It awakened something within me. And I really recognized that it was a remembering of who I was and what I was here to do. And basically I was hooked. So I carried on. I held, I think they were monthly, just in-person circles. I had sort of 6, 7, 8 women came, and then they just got bigger. I had 12 or 14 women come. I then was able to hire a space in town. And it was really creating a space a little different to the red tent space that was already in town, just to meet women exactly where we were at. But my intention was that safe and sacred space where we could gather, we could share. Each of us could be heard and seen and witnessed and held. And there was no judgment, no sympathy, no advice, no platitudes. And every woman that came reflected that back to me. The need was so profound, and we each took away so much. And that's where I started. I started with that one circle on a floor in a cafe, and I just kept answering that call and knowing it was what I was here to do. Yeah. Wow. It was really, yeah.
And I just love how women's circle always seem to happen on the floor.
Yeah.
Somehow they never happen on chairs or a couch or anything. They just always happen on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, blankets.
Yeah, blankets. Yeah. Concrete floor. You need blankets.
Yep. So first note to everyone who's listening, blankets.
First tip.
Can you tell us a little bit about how that evolved now? So when you say from the first circle, it just kind of happened, were the same people that came in the beginning, or did it take on a life on its own right away?
No, it was the same people. I was in quite a small community, so many of the women returned each time, and they might bring a friend, or another woman would find out about it. And that capacity for me was to hold space for up to about 14 women in one space. And at the same time, I was holding those locally. And then I started an online circle, because that was a way for me to be able to hold space for more women. Yeah. So I started what I call the Sister Mind, which to start with was a 12-month closed circle. So the same group of women that joined me stayed through for 12 months. And that has now evolved into an online membership. So women can join and leave depending on what's going on in their lives. I've had women in there, this is their 3rd year.
Wow.
So they've stayed since the beginning, which is really incredible. And that really helps, again, to hold that container, because there's that continuity as women come and go. So I guess it evolved. I just threw myself into it, any opportunity to hold space and to hold circles, and really deepening my understanding of what a circle is. So in addition to holding, in-person gatherings and online gatherings, I see everything as a circle. So when I'm working with one-on-one clients, I treat it in a very similar way. I open space, I close space. Wherever you are in relationship with another person, or in relationship with Mother Nature, or in relationship with money, anywhere that you're in relationship, that can be treated as a circle. And if you approach it with that intention, it's a really powerful way to interact with the world. So circles have really taken over
your whole life.
My entire life. In every way imaginable. In how I interact with my partner, how we sold our cafe, and we've moved countries, and I earn a living. I have an entire business around holding space and guiding other women onto that path as well. So yes, that first, and I still look back and I think, wow, first circle, 5 glorious women sitting on the floor of a cafe. Those women are currently in my membership. And so that continuity again, so it can take you anywhere, circles. Find a circle.
Find a circle. Note number 2.
Yeah.
Right after blankets.
Exactly.
It's amazing that when you tell that story, because it really tells you how big the need for that is, like how much we all long for like that connection and that kind of gathering. And I love how you extended that into all other aspects of your life, because I never thought about it that way.
No, it has that, being able to see circle in everything has had an incredible impact in my life. And that is definitely something a message that I feel drawn to share, because if we filter everything, I shared a post recently, you're either in circle or you're in a hierarchy. And when we start to look at the world that we're in and how we're interacting with people, but also with institutions, with government, with the medical system, with politics, we start to filter that through a slightly different lens of how would this look if we are in circle, where everybody is held, everybody counts, everybody matters. There is true equality and a co-created experience, and it is about the whole rather than the individual. It is about the collective that we all contribute to. It really changes how you see the world and the choices that you have the capacity to make.
I
think.
I think I agree. And I've just heard you say that for the first time, but already it sounds really true.
Yeah. And I think for women, we yearn to come together. There is a deep collective yearning for us to gather. We're really good when we work together. It supports us. It's within us. It's an integrated part, I think, in our psyche and how we connect with one another. And we're healing collective wounds, going back to the witch hunts where we were burnt and murdered. And we had, that divide and conquer and pitted against each other. It was safer to be separate. We couldn't gather together. It was unsafe for us to do so. And as we emerge from that time, which it's still ongoing, that collective fear is still there. When I meet with women who are stepping into the role of circle holder, and when we go within, it's amazing that we still carry this fear of gathering together. And we're so, in the modern day, whether you've worked in corporate or really in any workplace, women have still been pitted against each other. There's still been competition. Well, we've already got 2 women. Why do we need any more? So that's, I know, so all of that is under, weaving its way under the work that we're doing. And when we can gather in circle, when we can consciously and intentionally create safe spaces, or safer spaces, I should say, it is so powerful and so transformative, both on an individual level, but again on that collective level, because we start to heal those wounds. We start to get really honest around where we have mistreated other women and where we have been hurt by other women. And through that, and Circle does this, it doesn't have to be an overt circle on healing sister wounds, but gathering in that way and witnessing each other in that way, being open and honest is so healing that we then approach our relationships with other women in a different way. It is, I've not come across, for my own healing journey, it's been incredible. And for my connection with women and to see our strength and our grace and our courage and our resilience at a collective level, it is so powerful. I've used that word a lot because it's a good word.
It is, and you're giving me goosebumps. You just touched on that, how like there is a natural or innate yearning in women to gather. So do you think that it plays a big role in like a women's life when we're trying to create like a joyful life and a life that feels really good from, just the inside out?
Yes, absolutely. And I think when you speak to women in any context, we're not meant to do this alone. We know that, whether we're talking about mothering, running a home, working, our health, whatever it is, we know we're not meant to be doing it alone. And yet many of us feel very, very isolated. That may simply be geographically isolated. We're living in places where we no longer have family. We've moved for jobs and we're having to create friendships to sort of start. It's a bit like dating to start reaching out to women again. And we're often not equipped for that. And many of us are carrying stories from childhood bullying, schoolyard bullying, corporate bullying that is still there. So to create that, I think the words you used were joyful and soulful. And for me, when we consciously create sisterhood, it brings joy and soul back into our life. So I often say sisterhood is deeper and broader than friendship. It is, of course, we can create incredible friendships through sisterhood, but it is deeper than that. It is coming to a place of really committing to supporting one another, to a willingness to explore our shadow as well, and a willingness to be open and honest with one another, to see each other, to hear each other, to accept each other. It's not about whether we have similar backgrounds. It's not about our parenting choices. It's not about what our job or career or business is. It's being able to come to each other with an open heart and open hands and just say, I'm here, I'm present, and I'm supporting you because you are you, not because you match my ideals or my lifestyle choices or even my values. There is space for women to connect in this way when their values don't necessarily match, because we can step aside of judgment and we don't have to see each other as right or wrong or good or bad. So if we have that aspect in our lives, for me, that sparks joy because it's this deep connection. And when we think about that soul in our lives and your personal spiritual or devotional practices, but women haven't really gathered. If you're not part of a traditional religion, then for many of us coming together in that way, that is our spiritual practice. That is how we're connecting with one another. And it's a safe space where, once again, women are allowed to share in ritual and in ceremony, which we've been excluded from in the traditional religions. So it is a really empowering way to step into your joy and creating a soulful life, and doing it in community and win one another. Sisterhood for me is walking side by side. Because, don't lead and I'm not going to follow. We're doing this together. So that for me is the link with creating joy and a soulful life within your own life through community.
Do you think there are rules for that? You've already said like there is no judgment and things like that. And when you say, okay, I really want to like create a sisterhood for me and maybe sit in circle with them, like is there certain rules or things that you should never, ever, ever do because, I don't know, it ruins everything?
Yeah, I think for me, I wouldn't necessarily use the word rules, but I would use the word guidelines.
All right.
And these will be different for everybody. Again, when we look at, for instance, creating a sisterhood, or bringing sisters together as opposed to friendship, I think they are different. Your relationship with a friend, I still recommend understanding each other and understanding your boundaries and the reason for the friendship. But when we're purposefully gathering together, I always invite women to think about what's your intention? Why are you gathering these women together? And then what is the purpose of that gathering? So you've got your intention for wanting to gather, and then what is the purpose of that particular gathering? And inquiring, going within, is how do you create a safe space for that? And in my experience, guidelines are a really accessible way to do that. They don't have to be complex, but by sharing those when your women gather in circle and explaining the idea of no judgment, no advice, no platitude, no sympathy, talking about confidentiality, what is held here is held in confidence. We won't gossip after, the stereotype of women gossiping. Just clarify what we share here is held here. Trusting each other to use their discernment in how they turn up, trusting each other to take self-responsibility for the energy that they bring to that space. So it is different. It's different to just catching up at a cafe with your friends for coffee, although I think some of these would be really helpful in those cases. But the more often we gather in circle, when we're gathering intentionally and with a meaningful purpose and with an understanding, we really learn about discernment. We learn about self-responsibility. We learn how to support one another. We learn how to hold space for one another. And then when we're gathering with another group of friends for coffee, we bring that through and we role model that behavior so that we're no longer talking about another woman who isn't there. We're no longer focusing on everything that's wrong. We have a capacity to hold the space to not need to give advice or tell each other what to do. So it can have a profound impact on your relationships and your friendships as well. But yes, when you're gathering in circle, I think there definitely are ways to do that so that it is safe and that it is helpful.
Yeah. One thing that you said caught my attention. You said no sympathy. Why is that?
This for me, it's a really interesting one. People ask me about this all the time. So for me, sympathy can be very disempowering. So part of a circle structure is being able to share and being able to share exactly where you're at. And for that to be received it's not in a vacuum, it's to be received with love and acceptance of where you're at, as opposed to us as the receivers needing to respond or to project how that's impacting on us. So you'll often experience in circle, women will be able to share things they may not have shared before, but also they may be able to release through crying. So for instance, when I'm holding circle, if you cry, and this is part of our guidelines, we hold the space for you, but we don't rush to you. We don't pat you on the head. We don't offer you a hug. There are tissues available. You can pass the tissues. We pass the tissues, otherwise it can get a bit messy. But
tissues.
Yeah, it serves two purposes. For the person that's able to release, when we rush to offer sympathy, it can abort that process. So instead of them being able to fully release, if we're saying it's okay, everything's, it just aborts what they're going through. It aborts the release. Also, it's really interesting for us to witness and to just go within and see where that need to respond is coming from. What part of us is that coming from? Is it coming from our need to make her feel better? Is it coming from our need to fix or to heal or to save? And just get curious about that, because that is your stuff. So to being able to sit with that and go, okay, and I've said to beautiful women, just sit on your hands. Because the desire to rush and do something is so strong. And all I can share really is that in my experience of having held space in this way and really invited women to comply with these guidelines, is that the feedback is the experience is incredibly transformational. Because it also means that the woman who is releasing or sharing something deeply painful or deeply traumatic, we don't re-traumatize accidentally. We don't contribute to re-traumatizing that. And we don't disempower her by offering sympathy that she then has to respond to.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? And we don't want to put her in a position where she's no, it's okay. I'm fine. Yes. No, we just allow it to be exactly as it is and take as long as that takes. And it can be uncomfortable. It's not how we function. You know, when you catch up with a friend over coffee in your kitchen and they burst into tears, it's unlikely that your response is to just sit and hold the space. You're more likely to give her a hug or pat her on the back, or, you know, you want to do something. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But in Circle, we have this opportunity to do it differently and to experience what that is like. And the feedback that I have in my own personal experience of that is that that is empowering. And we each get to go within and realize what we have, but we are still supported by that energetic container and by the love that is being held for us as we release. So that was a very long answer, but that's why.
No, it really makes sense. And also what you said about that it's not only for the woman releasing, but also for the other women present to go in and check in what, like, the thing that they want to do, what it tells them about themselves. That's a really interesting point. Yeah. And I'm thinking about, okay, if someone bursts into tears in front of me, I'm usually like, oh my God, don't cry, because I don't know how to handle that. And I think I might want to address that. So another thing I wanted to talk about was that we're talking about sisterhood and about women coming together. And there is so much talk, especially recently, about, you know, gender equality and feminism and like gender roles, and if we should like get rid of them completely and all of these things. And I was wondering if you think that there is still something special about women meeting where it's really just women and not men and women coming together.
Yeah. It's such an interesting question. It's a really good question. And I think there's multiple layers and complexities to that.
Yeah.
So for me, the area that I work in is women's circles. And there are obviously areas of that to explore in terms of gender fluidity, transgender. There's a lot of considerations for women holding women's circles and how we can ensure that they are inclusive as opposed to only for a particular type of woman. So that's one thing. The other is that I don't see women's circles as mutually exclusive to mixed gender circles or to any other type of circles, really. I think the circle format, the structure, the philosophy, the principles of circle can be applied to any gathering. And, you know, my big vision would be to see them applied in institutions, in schools, within our communities, within politics, within governments. I mean, you know, the world run by a circle of, I have to say women, but a circle would be a phenomenal experience for us all. My particular love is women's circles, because I think although we've come a long way, most women have still experienced feeling unsafe. And so when we can provide safer spaces for them, which may be general women's circles, but also women's circles that focus on a particular group, can be really, really powerful and empowering for the women attending. So I think that there is definitely room for women's circles. I think we're still at a healing stage. We're still awakening and we're still rising, and we're at that almost like a liminal state at the moment. There's so much movement happening, but we haven't quite kind of pushed through, I think, to the next phase of whatever that is going to be for humanity, but for women. So when we remember that women have been silenced, women have been abused, women have been ignored, women have been rejected, that there's still need, in my opinion, to hold space for women and for women to hold space for each other without men. Having said that, I think bring circles to everything is really powerful. And seeing examples in schools with boys and girls, seeing examples in the workplace, just in terms of how we can hold powerful meetings using the principles of circle, it has this far-reaching effect as an incredible tool and not just a spiritual practice for women.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, you make me long for a lot of circles everywhere. And I love that you said you see them happen in schools. I think that is so cool when you can start with a practice like that, even with kids when they're young. And then, I mean, they grow up to be adults, right? And they carry it like out in their adult world then, and yeah, it just spreads. And I love that. Yeah. I love that some are doing it in schools.
Yeah, it was actually, somebody sent me a beautiful article from the town that I used to live in, Denmark, that the local agricultural college was in the paper because they were using circle communicate and for the kids to share their experience of that term or whatever it was. And someone sent that to me and was like, look, this ripple effect that you talk about.
Yeah.
And it was a really beautiful, I wasn't involved in that, but it was exactly what I believe.
Yeah.
That as each of us holds a circle, it ripples out and another circle is held, and that ripples out and another circle is held. So as they can weave their way through every aspect, sounds like I'm starting a circle revolution.
Will do.
Infiltrate everywhere with a circle.
Maybe a circle revolution is exactly what we need.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is.
I would love it.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No, I think, and mixed gender circles, it's not something I have experience with, but I have clients who do hold them, and for various reasons. And they're really powerful because once men and women can communicate and understand each other's way of communicating and hold space for one another, when men can be in the presence of women, or it's not even, when we talk about masculine and feminine energy as well, where we can all be in the presence and listen to one another without needing to fix or heal or save or tell one another what to do. That's really powerful. And when we can communicate and not feel the need to defend ourselves or to prove ourselves right, that's really powerful as well. So in terms of communication generally, I think mixed gender circles have a really important role to play in our understanding and how we can move forward together.
Yeah, so cool. When we step away a little from circle and go more into the sisterhood part, like for a woman, you talked about that maybe you've been, moved to a different country, or you're just at a new place and you don't really have that sisterly support yet. How do I start that? How do I get that?
It's another really, really good question. So this has been my own experience. But again, when I moved to Australia, when I then moved down to Denmark, it is firstly to go within and, wherever you've arrived at, to just take a few moments to think about your relationship with women, to think about the friendships you have, where they are, to think about what sort of relationships you want with women, and what are you looking for? Is it somebody to have a coffee date with on a Friday? Is it someone to hang out at home with while you look after the baby? Is it a circle? Are you seeking that deeper connection where you want to go and spend 2 or 3 hours within a group of women? Or do you want to find someone to craft with, or a book club? So really get clear on what you're seeking. And while you're doing that process, I know this sounds a bit long-winded, but trust me, there's a reason to this. While you're doing that process, it's a really good opportunity to also look at what your relationship with women is like generally, in terms of what your relationship with the feminine is like, where you may have been hurt, where you may have hurt other women, and just an opportunity to be honest with yourself so that you know what type of relationships you're seeking, and through that not taking past hurts and feelings and judgments into these new relationships that have the potential to really bring that joy and soul into your life. So, and then be more, be proactive. I mean, we have more ways to connect at the moment than I think we've ever had before.
True.
So I have a lot of connections online, and they are as strong and as incredible as in-person connections that I've made. And when we then meet in person, which can happen randomly, you travel countries or you travel interstate, you just can't believe you've never met in person. It's amazing. You connect, you're like, I can't believe we never met in person, because that connection is still so deep, because it's being built on a foundation of trust and acceptance and love and open-heartedness. So that's a great place. I'm a fan for online Facebook groups to find like-spirited, like-minded, like-hearted women. Memberships, if you want to invest in being part of an already created sisterhood where you're going to meet women who are on a similar path. If you're on a path of awakening, or you have a particular interest, there'll be a group out there who are already connecting that you can join and create those relationships. And in person, what I'm finding, I've just recently moved back to London, and although I'm from here, my friends are scattered all over the place, and I've been away for sort of over a decade. So I'm just exploring that myself. I'm very grateful to the online connections that I have and the women I sit in circle all the time. So at least once a week. And I'm slowly reaching out. If you have children, you'll often meet women at the school gate. Except I don't do that because my partner does all the childcare. So it's looking for circles. I reached out on Facebook and said, do I know anyone in London?
Me.
There's quite a few people here. I think I could know someone. And, my online connections tagged their friends in London. And so that has given me the opportunity to reach out, and then I'm meeting women in that way, and we're meeting in person, but the connection came through online. So I see Facebook as an opportunity to be in circle. I think if you approach it with that intention and you treat it as a sacred space and you're very intentional in how you use it, we can create really incredible relationships, which then can come through in the, I don't want to say real life, online is real life, but in person, in your geographical location. So I don't have a one size fits all, but I think it's being proactive, being really clear on your intention, and reaching out and not worrying. You may catch up with somebody and be like, I never want to see them again. That's okay. Like a first date. Because also sisterhood, as I said, is deeper than friendship. So there'll be people that you really enjoy sitting in circle with, but that doesn't mean that you have to be best friends. But within that space, they will be an important part of your life.
Cool. I'm sorry, I'm a bit blown away. What I love is that you look at social media and stuff like Facebook as something where you can actually build real connection, because we so often read that, social media has kind of ruined real friendships and real connection because everything happens online. But when you go in with that intention of actually building that connection, I think it's just a cool way of looking at it differently. Well,
for me, that really changed. I did not appreciate social media, and if I didn't have a business, I probably would never have got to grips with it at all. And I knew that I had to change, because everything is a reflection of us. So I had to change how I was approaching it. And if I wanted to approach it in a grumpy, this is a dreadful thing way, that's what I would receive. So I changed that, and I was like, well, actually, Facebook's incredible, or Instagram, or wherever your favorite one is. It's incredible. It can connect us with women across the world. We get to create our businesses. We get to interact with people. We get to learn new things. And my my guiding light is always, what's your intention? Because that will be reflected back to you. So if you turn up to any of these platforms with that intention of seeing it as a sacred circle, seeing it as a place for deep connection, and really curating your feed, be really conscious about what you're interacting with, who you're connecting with, cheerlead the women that are inspiring you, or that you really bow to their courage, and just step aside from those that don't serve you or the path that you're on. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to interact where that's not helpful or useful or meaningful. And I'm deeply grateful to Facebook. I literally, it's a cliche, but some of my best friends are on my computer.
Love it.
And my deepest sisterhoods, the women within my sisterhoods, that connection I have is because we have this incredible technology. And I know there are issues with privacy, etc., and those are all things that we need to consider, and safety. That's absolutely, I'm not dismissing those, but how we come, the intention that we bring in terms of connecting with like-minded, like-spirited, like-hearted women, it's a really powerful tool. There's that word again.
There's that word.
Word of the day. Powerful.
Good word of the day. Could be worse. So you've talked a bit about your Sister Mind membership, but you also run a circle school. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And I will link both of them in the description for the episode. But I think it would be nice to just hear about it in your own words, and just tell us a little bit about that.
Oh, thank you so much. So yes, Circle School started because I was running in-person circles and I was running online circles, and I was getting inquiries from women saying, I want to hold my own circles. How do you do that? And I thought, well, I don't know. I just did it. So it kind of planted a seed, and I wasn't really sure where that was going to go. And then I did like a Facebook post, and I said, is anybody interested in a guidebook or a course on how to hold circles? And the response was incredible. So this overwhelming response to everything. It was like, yes, I'm interested in a guidebook. Yes, I'm interested in a course. Yes, I'm interested in mentoring. And I was like, oh, okay, this could be a thing. And, everything I do, and this is what I encourage the women who come into Circle School, if you're going to hold circles, is, it's courage before confidence. So I was flying to Brisbane to a conference, and I decided to hold a circle when I was there. And then I tacked on a day's workshop on how to hold circles. And that was the first version of it, which took a day. That then became a 3-day course over time. I did a tour of Australia, taking it around the major capital cities. And then there were lots of women saying, but I can't get to that. And I can't take 3 days out, or like a week. And I said, okay. So I did an online version, a beta online version last year. I had 24 incredible women come through that. We've just finished the second online round. This isn't really answering your question, but so really it's for women who want to step into that role of circle holder. They may want to hold in-person circles, online circles. It's to give them the tools to do that, really deepening into their capacity as a space holder, but also how to bring circles into your business. So I come very much from that position that they can add to your business, and that they can be a really integral part of how you work with women. And also bringing, as we talked about at the beginning, seeing your one-on-ones as circles, bringing circle elements to your workshops, bringing them to your webinars, bringing circle elements to your retreats and your events. So it's a real deep dive into the art and craft of circles and space holding with business mentoring.
That is very cool. When does the next round start?
The next round should be starting in July. I haven't set a date yet, but it'll probably be later in the year.
All right. Very cool. And so, second to last question. If you were allowed to give only one single piece of advice, and I know it's me to just go with one, other than blankets, Then when it comes to sisterhood, what would that be?
I think it would be embrace it. Seek it and embrace it, regardless of your previous experience.
Yeah.
Just embrace it. Go all in.
I like that. Especially with the stereotype that when women come together, there's like bitching and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I love to just go like, okay, I'm doing that. Yeah. And then actually the last question, which everyone, and I love that question because I like to hear all like kinds of different opinions on that. What does living a sparkly life mean to you?
Oh, that's so fun. I think for me, living a sparkly life is laughing a lot. It is setting that intention to be the truest expression of myself and allowing myself to be a vessel for whatever wishes to come through, and loving what is as it is and spending as much time as possible in circle.
Spending as much time as possible in circle. I like that. And I mean, circle gets you sparkly.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, it's really like I try to do it every other month, as I said, to gather a group of women and we sit on the floor with blankets. And it's just like there's this magic that happens and everyone just lights up. And yeah, it's just like sparkly eyes all around. And I absolutely love that.
Yeah. It's a thing. Women post their selfies, post circle glow. It's a thing. You glow after circle. You're very sparkly. Yep.
Hashtag.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're back in social media. Millie, thank you so much. This has been fun.
Thank you. It was really fun. It's an absolute privilege and a joy to chat with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Same to you. Guys, thank you so much for listening in. If you like what Mitle had to say, jump on over to my website and check out the show notes because I've linked everything about her up there. So you can find her on social media, you can find her website, you can find her at Circle School, just everything that she does. And if you like this episode and you don't want to miss any more of them, just hit the subscribe button, leave me a comment, leave me a review, rate this podcast, depending on what platform you're listening in. And yeah, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.